Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to Pacific West. Does everyone know where the restrooms are? Right outside the door and to the left. Okay. Lori has kindly put refreshments over here, coffee, water, tea, etc. Before we get started, because we're all in this business as colleagues, I'd like to ask everybody how you would like to be addressed today before we go live on the recording.
You can call me Betsy, that's okay.
Please call me Bob.
I'm Chuck.
By my first name, Larry.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. As you know, today is going to be recorded, so we can have a memorized recording of the proceedings. So any questions before we get started here, before we go live on tape?
No.
Everyone agrees we're ready to go? Very good. So John, if you'll start the tape, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call this disciplinary hearing to order. The Professional Standards Committee is charged with holding appropriate hearings for the Pacific West Association of Realtors in accordance with the procedures set forth in the association's bylaws for matters concerning alleged unethical conduct or other violations of a membership or MLS duty. The hearing panel is an impartial panel of Professional Standards Committee members who have been selected to ascertain the truth in this disciplinary hearing and to render a decision on the testimony and evidence presented. It is to be noted that this is a disciplinary hearing, not an arbitration. The hearing panel cannot award money damages regardless of the outcome of this hearing. The panel before you today has been specially selected by the president of the association. This hearing panel shall seek to determine all ascertainable and relevant facts pertaining to the matter under consideration to arrive at a pure judgment and a decision that is fair to all parties. The hearing panel has discretion to determine its own rules of evidence and its own procedures to be followed to achieve the objectives of equity and due process. At this time, I'd like to request that all parties present in the room that expect to testify at this hearing, please stand and be sworn or to make the appropriate affirmation in lieu of being sworn. All stand for me, please. And please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the statements you are about to make at this hearing are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. Please be seated. Now, at this time, Betsy is a witness. You're going to have to be excused from the room, and you'll be called to testify. Thank you very much. Now that the witnesses have been excused, we'll now proceed with the hearing. At this point in the hearing, the complaining party, the complainant, you can make your opening statement of effectively, Bob, why we're here today.
Well, my name is Bob Anderson with Real Realty. I've been a realtor for over 20 years, and this is the first time I have a complaint because I've never met such an unethical agent before in my life. Larry Lynn is unethical. He violated a lot of code of ethics as well as MLS rules. He interrupted my exclusive representation with my buyer. He told my buyer confidential information about his own client, his seller, to induce her, to motivate her to write up an offer so it can double in the deal. Plus, he's also had false information in the MLS. He's an embarrassment to the real estate industry, and I hope you discipline him.
At this point, the respondent, Larry, and your counsel, you can make an opening statement, please.
Thank you. Larry Lynn Realty. You know, Bob made some very disparaging remarks about me. And, you know, I feel that it's kind of unfair. It seems odd to me when I first received word of the complaint that we're even here. Because we're here, I feel, just based on the fact that Bob didn't communicate with me very well. This all started because he had a person that he was working with who decided that she wanted to work with me. It's as plain as simple as a client calling, a client asking to see a property, and me providing a service to her. As far as the communication with Bob goes, Bob did not have any exclusive. He says he had a client exclusive representation. However, not only did I ask Bob if he had that exclusive representation in writing, I asked what turned out to be my client, Betsy, if she had exclusive representation in writing, and she said no. So all I did was represent this particular buyer in the best way that I could and brought buyer and seller together. So to question my ethics, hey, I've been in the business 30 years, He says he's been in the business for 20 years. So you know, if you've been in the business for 20 years, that if you have exclusive representation, you should get it in writing. The time between myself showing the property and Bob finding out and then us actually getting a deal in writing was approximately 10 days. And in that time, Betsy, my client, decided to utilize my services. So I really do feel that there's no reason for me to be here with all of these charges that he's brought against me. I have nothing negative to say to him other than the fact, hey, he thought he had someone and he didn't. He moved a little bit slow. The client was a little bit more aggressive and assertive, and we were aggressively trying to get the property sold, and I just responded to the client, and I feel that I did everything possible and to our standard. That's all that I have to say.
Counselor Chuck, do
I
you have
have
any
no-
input for your
I have
client's
no,
behalf?
I have no comments at this time.
Thank you very much. The complainant will now have an opportunity to state your case. You can call any witnesses as you may desire. Cross-examination of the complainant's witnesses by the respondent will be allowed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the evidence I'd like to present now. A little background information that on Thursday, December 28th, I had floor and I had a phone call from Betsy Bosworth, the buyer. Betsy said she was looking for an agent to represent her. She was looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with enough room to build a barn, 3-car garage for about $500,000. I told her I work the area, I'd love to work with her, so she agreed that I'd be her exclusive realtor. So I did a search, and I told her I'd be doing a search, and I would send her the multiple listings to her that afternoon. So she was very happy with that arrangement, and that afternoon I sent her 5 listings. I told her on her voicemail that I sent those listings to her. She called me up later that day and said, wonderful, she'd like to see those. She was going to drive by herself, and I said, no, tomorrow I can take her by the properties. So that was on Thursday, December 28th. Then on Friday, the next day, the 29th, I picked her up at her house, and we drove by those 5 listings. We didn't see the inside. She didn't like the outside, so we didn't need to see the inside. So she wasn't happy with any of those. So I dropped her off, and I went back to the office, and I did a search. And I found a new listing that I didn't find before, Green Hills. And it was listed for $500,000. It looked perfect for her. It had 2.5, it was advertised 2.5 acres, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It looked perfect. So I called Betsy up and I said, Betsy, I got another, it's around 5 o'clock now, by the way. So I called Betsy, I said, Betsy, I have a new listing I'd like to show you. She said, great, I can't see it tomorrow, which was Saturday, but I can see it the following day, which would be Sunday, New Year's Eve. So since it was 5 o'clock, I didn't want to call the listing agent because I didn't know if he'd be in or out, plus I had an appointment to go to. So I called Larry Lynn, the listing agent, the following day, which would be Saturday, December 30th, to make an appointment for the following day, Sunday, the 31st of December, New Year's Eve. So I spoke to Larry. I said, Larry, I introduced myself to him. Like I said, I've been in the business for 20 years. We're a gentleman company, gentlemen and ladies. I explained who I'm working with. I said her name to him. Maybe that was a mistake. I said I'm working with Betsy Bosworth. I never had anybody ever steal a client from me, so I didn't think I had to keep that a secret. So I was sharing that information. I said, I think this would be a perfect match. I said to Larry, when can I show it? We'd like to see it tomorrow, Sunday, the 31st, New Year's Eve, at 1 o'clock. Larry said, oh, we can't do that. It's New Year's Eve. The sellers, they don't want anybody in the house. And then he started giving me the story about, I'm not sure if they're going to sell the house as is or if they're going to fix it up. He was giving me all sorts of stories. I said, Larry, would you please just ask the sellers if we can see the house tomorrow at 1 o'clock? He said, yeah, Steve, yeah, Bob, I'll get back to you after I call the sellers. I said, well, here's my number. Please call me back. So I called Betsy then. I explained to Betsy that I have a call I spoke to the listing agent. He's going to talk to the seller, and he'll let me know if we can see the property on New Year's Eve. Never got a call back. I told Betsy I'm not going to call her back until I get a call back from Larry. So I never got a call back. I figured the seller said, it's New Year's Eve. We don't want to get involved with showing the property so close to New Year's New Year's Day. So the next couple of days I had off, and I went back to work on Wednesday, January 3rd. And I thought I'd give Betsy a call. I've never heard back from Larry. So I gave Betsy a call. I said, Betsy, I'm going to call Larry to see if I can show you that house on Green Hill. She says, no need. No need, Bob. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, I've already seen it. I said, well, how can that be? She goes, not only have I seen it, I have an offer on it. I bought it. I was shocked. I said, no, this can't be. She goes, yeah, Larry called me and showed me the property. And I said, well, how did you figure out on a price? It was listed for $500,000. What did you offer? She said, we offered $450,000. I said, how did you arrive at that? Because that's what I'm good at, to help the client come up to a price. She said, well, Larry said they're desperate. The sellers are desperate. They want to get out of the deal. They have all sorts of financial problems. And he says, you can buy for $50,000 less than the market value. So she put an offer in for $450,000 and got it accepted. So he gave confidential information from his seller, who he has a fiduciary duty to my buyer, after stealing her from me, so we can double in the deal and get 6%. Not only that, he enticed her by giving her 2% of his commission on top of that. So I was shocked. So I said, well, Betsy, good luck, because I don't want to interfere. I hung up with her and I called Larry. Boy, what a phone call that was. Larry didn't even want to take my call. I called Larry and said, Larry, hey, this is Bob. I understand you're working with my client. He said, you didn't have a written exclusive representation with her. This is the way it is out in the real estate world. I don't know where he's from, but let me tell you, we're a professional organization, and this guy, he just snatched her from me. He didn't even offer any cooperation of any sorts. He said, that's the way it is. And I asked him, I said, well, why would you tell her about your client's financial distress? He said, hey, 6% is 6%. I was shocked. There was nothing else to say. He was cursed, and he just said, that's the way it is. And he hung up. I have to say, he was dishonest not only to me, he was dishonest to my buyer, but he was also dishonest to his own seller. And why? Because he wanted to double in the deal. Now, I made a mistake. I told him my buyer's name. And I do that all the time. I want to establish a relationship, because that might help get my offer accepted. Well, I don't know how he back-ended. He got her number, and he showed it to her, put her in escrow. So I'm very, very unhappy at this point.
So now, the respondent, Larry, counselor?
Chuck Needleman, counselor for the respondent. That's quite a story you told, Bob. It's very interesting. You're quite a storyteller. So, you work the up desk, right? You get a lot of your clients off the up desk?
Well, first off, it's not a story. It's the truth. So don't call it a story. And I do get a lot of clients on the up desk. Many of our agents do.
Oh, do you really?
Yes.
Do you advertise? How do you get them?
Oh, the broker does all sorts of stuff
He
for us.
does all sorts
Yes.
of stuff, huh? And do you find buyers that way? Up the up
Absolutely.
desk? Really?
Buyers and sellers.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so you got a call from Mrs. Bannerman, was it? Betsy
My buyer, Betsy Bosworth.
Bosworth, that's it. I'm glad you remembered her name.
Of course
That's
I
good.
do. She's
Yeah.
my client.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, you took her out, you found 5 properties to show her. And none of those first 5 properties were satisfactory to her,
That's correct.
correct? So then you went back and you had to do some more research to find this property?
That's correct.
And is that because you don't know the area, you don't know what she's looking for, you have no idea what she really wants, that she's really not a client that you're engaged in?
No, not at all.
Really? Really? So part of your story was that she liked the one property, but then it was 5 o'clock and you didn't want to call
Right. I had an appointment, as I said.
Yeah.
And I would call Larry the following day, Saturday, for the appointment on Sunday, New Year's Eve.
So let's go back to Betsy. How much
I'm
time?
glad you got her name right.
I did, I got it this time. How much time did you spend with Betsy? You show-
Well, I spoke to her on the phone on Thursday,
Mhm.
and then I picked her up on Friday to show her those 5 properties. So all told, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And then back again in the car, or how did you show her the property? that
In
she-
my car.
In your car?
Yes, I picked her
Yes.
up.
Okay, so she was with you the whole time?
On Friday she was.
Yeah.
Thursday we're on the phone.
Well, okay, so Friday spent time with her. So in this
That's right.
time with her on Friday, hour and a half approximately, riding around the car, you never brought up anything about, gee, Betsy, I really want to be your agent, and, we should get together and sign an exclusive representation where I'm your exclusive buyer's agent? Do you ever talk to her about that?
That's not the way we do business in this area. I don't know where you're from, but we have a lot of trust with our clients. And so she was happy with me. We spoke on Thursday, and she said I'd be her agent. It's good enough for me.
So do you
I didn't think anyone was going to steal her, to be honest with you. Had I known Larry was going to steal her from me, I would have gotten something in writing.
Well, I don't think there's been a theft here at all. I think it's your
I don't-
incompetence.
I don't
It's your
care what
incompetence.
you think.
Yeah, it's your incompetence. If you look at the rules, the MLS rules, you'll find that what my client did was totally ethical.
Ethical
yeah,
and
it-
right rules?
Yes, it's right. It's
It's
right
in the Code of
Article-
Ethics, it's not
No,
in the
no,
MLS
it's in
rules.
Article 16. It's what he did was just right out of the book.
Stealing her from me.
No, he didn't steal it. He took a client that was not interested in you. You didn't service the client. She called him to set it up, and that's where you lost her. You didn't have the ability to seal the deal. He did.
Before you showed her the properties, when you first met her, had you had any other dealings with her at all?
No, I met her over the phone on Thursday, December 28th, as I mentioned.
Okay. And at that particular time, you set an appointment and met with her, correct?
At that point, I sent her some listings, and I explained that these 5 listings she might be interested in. And then she called me back and said, well, let's go see them the following day, which would have been Friday, December 29th,
Okay, so you sent her some listings first. So
on
when,
the 28th.
on the 28th.
Yes.
So is that the day you became her exclusive realtor?
Yes.
Because you sent her some listings on the internet?
No, because that was our agreement.
Oh,
The
okay.
listings had nothing to do with representation.
Okay,
She
okay.
said I was going to be her agent.
And so when you present your evidence, you'll have that exclusive right to represent her in writing?
Well, you can ask her when she comes.
Okay, so you will have that exclusive right to represent her in writing?
Can't wait to have her come in. You can ask her that question. It was verbal, if that's your point.
Okay, so it wasn't in writing, correct?
That's what I just said. It was
Okay.
verbal.
Okay.
Because that's how, we're in a very professional industry, and we don't have to write everything down.
Right.
I deal in trust.
Okay. Well, I completely understand that you deal in trust, but in our business, we have contracts for a reason. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, apparently I need it when someone steals my client.
Well, you do need it when you think you're representing someone exclusively and you actually are not.
So do you have a buyer's representation for every buyer you work with?
We're only talking about this particular
I don't think
case,
you do.
correct? Correct? We're only talking about this case?
That's
So-
correct. Don't answer that.
So,
You don't want to answer that. That proves my point.
well, as I stated, I'm trying to take all the emotion out of it, and I will continue to do so. So, just so I'm clear, so did you write up any other offers for Betsy or do any other work on her behalf that would lead you to believe that you were her exclusive realtor?
Well, writing up an offer doesn't determine if you're an exclusive agent or not, so that has no bearing on it. But to
Oh,
answer your
can
question...
you tell me what does
me answer
make
your
you an
question.
exclusive realtor?
Let me answer your question.
Well, you said that writing up
I'm
an
sorry.
offer doesn't
1 minute.
make you an exclusive realtor, so I'm
gonna
just
answer
asking
your
the question.
There
So
was
I'm-
no offer. There was no offer to write up because someone stole her from me on the property, and that offer was written up
So there was no offer to write up on the 5 properties that you showed her.
because she didn't like them.
Great. And so the question that I have for you now is, since writing an offer doesn't make you the exclusive realtor for someone, what exactly does, per our standard as industry professionals, make you the exclusive realtor?
Well, our agreement between me and the buyer.
The agreement that's not in writing.
I'm sorry.
Real Estate
I'm answering his
101?
questions.
So did you have it? So once again, You didn't have it in writing.
How many times will I answer this question? This is an agreement I had with my buyer.
I'll keep
Verbally.
asking it as many times as you continue to say you're her exclusive realtor.
And I'll keep saying it. It was an
Okay.
agreement we
Okay,
had
gentlemen,
verbally.
do you have anything further to add to this?
Yeah, so just, I think I just have one more question right
Please
now.
address your name before you speak.
This is Larry Lynn. So my question for you, Bob, is Betsy gave me a call on December 30th. She left a voicemail. Did you instruct her to call me?
Of course not.
Do you have any idea why she called me? Is it because maybe she didn't feel you were the right realtor for her?
What day was this, the 30th?
On the 30th is when she left me a voicemail.
I told her I was waiting for your call, and maybe because you didn't return, you didn't have the decency to cooperate with another agent and the decency to call me back. I told her that. I told her I didn't get a phone call back from you, so maybe she called you.
Well, in your opening statement, and we did talk. We did speak, and I did tell you.
No, I asked for the appointment.
And I did tell you that.
And you didn't call me back ever confirming we have an appointment.
Right.
So that was the call. I said, I asked you
Right.
if you could call the sellers and make that appointment. And you said, oh, we're going to do something about if we're going to do it as is or do fixing up. And you said you would talk to the sellers and get back to me. You never did.
But I did make it clear to you.
And
that
I told
at
Betsy that you're going to call the seller and then get back to me.
But I did make it clear at that point when you and I first spoke that at that point there were not going to be any showings on December 31st, correct?
You told me that the sellers, you'd have to ask the sellers, but you didn't think there was going to be any showings on New
Okay.
Year's Eve.
Bob, did Larry provide you with a
John, I'm gonna have
timeline?
to stop you there, because an alternate, your job is to run the recorder and be under instruction. I can't let you participate in this.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
This is Debbie Kelly. Bob, how did you learn about the incorrect acreage?
Thank you for asking that question, because I've been attacked because I didn't get a written buyer-broker agreement. But there's more to this case than just a buyer-broker agreement, and that's part of it. After talking to my buyer that was stolen from me, I just had the weirdest feeling, and I wanted to check something, call it intuition. So I called the title company, and I asked them, can you please verify the square footage of this lot? And they told me it was 1.5 acres, not 2.5 acres, as he advertised in the MLS. And you can check that in the MLS, you have that in front of you.
How do agents typically check the property acreage when they're getting listings?
It's quite easy. You can do what I just did, call the title company. You can measure it if you want, but you don't have to go that far. You can just find out public records.
Okay.
Bob, at this time, I'd like to give you the opportunity to call your witness, Betsy, to come in.
Okay, I think she's right outside.
Please.
Betsy's
Proceed with your
my,
question and your witness.
thank you. Betsy's my witness. Did you have a statement you'd like to share with us first, Betsy? Or would you like me to just ask you some questions?
If you just ask me, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was there a reason that you needed to find a home quickly?
Well, yes, we wanted to because we had horses and we were looking for a place to locate so I could help increase my business, my stable business as a sideline.
That's why you needed a barn.
Right. We
Okay.
hope to find a barn.
Mhm. Have you ever seen the Green Hills property before?
Before, I'm sorry?
Well, I told you about the Green Hills property,
Mhm, mhm.
and I was trying to make an appointment to show it. And before I told you about it, you didn't know anything about that property,
No, I
correct?
did not.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
and you only saw it after Larry showed it to you, correct?
That's right.
Also, I wanted to ask you, did Larry ever mention any improvements on the property that the seller would be doing? Any improvements, or if they're going to sell it as is?
Well, no, he really didn't.
Mhm. Okay. And did Larry state how he was aware that the sellers would accept a below-market value offer on their property?
He did. He told us because it had been on the market for a very long time, and the sellers really needed to get the property sold, that he thought we could buy it for less because of that.
Did he give you that figure of $450,000?
He did.
Okay, and that's roughly $50,000 less than market value, as we discovered. Another question I have, was there a reason why you didn't submit your offer with me?
Well, there were a couple of reasons, actually. And I was a little reluctant to look at it with him, but, you know, we really just wanted to get in and see the home. So I went ahead and called him. And he knew at the time that, I'm assuming he knew that we were working together, but he went ahead and agreed to show it to me because we were anxious to see it. And he explained to me that sometimes people in real estate they refer people, or they pay them a referral fee or something like that. So he assured me, and he basically said if I would feel better, that he would pay you a referral fee.
So he mentioned my name,
Yes, oh yes, he knew who you were.
so there was a connection. He was aware of our relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely, because I told him I was reluctant.
Mhm.
This is Chuck Needleman. Betsy, I have some questions for you regarding your relationship with my client, Larry, and the complainant, Bob.
Okay.
How did you happen to call Larry, my client?
Well, I called him because Bob wasn't able to get us in the day we wanted to see it, which was New Year's Eve. We were available that day. And I just thought maybe if I called him myself, I could convince him some way to get us in.
And Larry was able to accommodate you and get you in on New Year's Eve, right?
Well, he was, but what surprised me is he said there must have been some understanding that either my agent didn't understand, but there was some understanding why we couldn't get in earlier. So yes, he was able to get us in.
So when you were being shown the 5 properties a day or two earlier, when you met Bob and
Mhm.
you were riding around with him, did Bob discuss his experience in the real estate business with you at all?
Well, I knew he was experienced. You could tell. He was really good at what he was doing, so.
Did he ever bring up having you sign an exclusive buyer's broker agreement?
Did he ask me to sign something?
Or did he bring up, would you be willing to sign an exclusive buyer's broker agreement?
No, I don't think he ever asked me to do that.
Had you looked at properties online before?
Off and on, sure.
Had you seen this online before you talked about it?
No, did not.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the purchase. It was alleged that you received a 2% fee back out of the commission from Larry.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Larry did say that he would, I think rebate was the word he used.
Mhm.
He would rebate us a percentage, 2%, and
Mhm.
that never happened.
And did he put it in writing to you?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Larry here. Betsy, I'm so sorry that I really do apologize, and I feel for you having to be put in this position between all of us here who are professionals in the industry. So I don't want you to feel like we're attacking you or accusing you or anything. We're just trying to get clarity on this. So
Thank you.
I am sorry for putting you in that position. But a question that I have for you is, were you at all dissatisfied with Bob?
No, not at all.
Okay. Because I know that it was asked earlier as to why you originally reached out to me. And you said that it was important that you got into a home.
Well, it was, but the reason I reached out is because, you know, we just really wanted to see the house.
Okay.
I mean, we just really, we'd been by the outside of it, and, yeah, we needed to get into a place, but we just really wanted to see the inside, so that's why I called you.
Okay. And have you owned acreage before, or, okay?
No.
So from seeing the property and during the 10 days between when we originally saw the property and you and your boyfriend actually made the written offer on the property, did you drive by at all, or did you check it out or get any information on the property at all?
I don't, it wasn't a full 10 days, I don't think. We went by it a couple of times, but,
Okay. Okay.
what do you mean, did I check it out?
Did you look at it? Did you go by? A lot of times buyers, especially when they're really interested in something, they may drive by through the neighborhood 2 or 3 times.
We drove by several times, sure.
Okay. And have you owned horses or barns or anything like that, or any type of acreage before?
No, I have some horses now that
Okay.
we stable.
Right.
but we want to have our own business, so that's
Okay.
why we wanted the room.
So last question, just out of curiosity, when you did see the property and when I showed you the property and helped you secure the property, did you feel that the horses that you had or the business that you planned on expanding was not going to fit, or the property size wasn't the right fit for you?
Well, not based on the information we had that said, in the very beginning, that said it was 2.5 acres.
Right.
So there was no reason for us to think it wouldn't work at
Well,
that time.
we did walk the property, correct?
We walked part of it.
Okay, and it looked like enough room then, correct?
You're the one that told us it was 2.5 acres,
Okay.
so.
At this time, the panel has a few questions, if you don't mind, Betsy, for you. Debbie?
This is Debbie Kelly. Betsy, did Larry go over the title report with you?
You know, I'm not sure, I don't remember.
You don't remember
We
that?
got so many things sent to us, so I don't recall.
But he
I don't-
never sat down with you and said, this is the title report and we need to go over it?
I don't recall that he ever did.
Okay. Did he ever recommend that you have a survey done?
A survey?
A survey of the property?
No.
No, never recommended a survey. Okay.
I wouldn't have thought we needed one. Did we need one? Guess so.
Well, if there's a question about acreage, I would think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Is there a certain number of acres that you need to have for the number of horses you were planning on boarding?
Yes, we needed a minimum of 2.5 acres. That's why it was so important to us. Because we'd found other properties, they weren't quite as large.
So this is having a financial impact.
It is. It's made a big difference for us.
Paul LePage, the chair. Was this a material fact that helped you make a decision to buy or not buy, Betsy, on the size of the actual property?
Well, if we would have known in the beginning, the answer is yes. If we would have known it was 1.5 acres, we wouldn't have purchased the property because it just won't work for what we had planned. We love the house, but it just wouldn't work for the business that we were hoping to build.
Okay, thank you. Juan?
This is Juan Ceballos. Betsy, did Larry tell you about that he was making 6% commission in this transaction at the close of escrow?
Well, I don't know exactly what the commission was. I mean, I don't remember the number 6%, but I know what he offered us, but that's just all I know.
So what you're saying is that he never, after offering you 2% rebate, that he never said anything about how much commission he was making,
No,
correct?
not that I recall.
Did Larry mention to you anything about dual agency when he was explaining the paperwork before writing up the offer?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean about dual agency. I know he was working for both of us. I know he was the seller's agent, but I know he was working for us too. So is that what you mean by dual agency?
Yes, basically, the agents should explain to you in detail each responsibility as an agent, as representing the seller and also representing the buyer. In this situation, it's both.
Well, we understood that he was working for both of us, if that's what you mean. We knew he was working for the seller, but we also knew he was working for us. So is that what you mean?
Yes, basically.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, how did you become aware of the lot size that Larry advertised at 2.5 acres was in actuality 1.5 acres?
Well, we only found out about it after the fact, and that was a real issue for us because we really needed that 2.5 acres.
Mhm. So that will negatively impact your use of the property.
It will. We're not going to be able to use it like we thought we would. We're just not going to be able to put as big a barn as we expected and have as many horses.
So I guess if you knew the property had only 1.5 acres, you probably wouldn't have purchased it, would you?
I'm not sure. Probably not. Probably because it wouldn't have worked.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. This is kind of foreign for you, but thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you.
At this point, the respondent, you can make your evidentiary presentations if you have further evidence for the panel to listen to. Larry and counsel.
Larry Lynn, and hearing everything kind of thrown at me you know, as a longtime professional, the first thing that I feel, because I really do feel that I'm here for my clients, as I feel for Betsy, my client. And at the same time, I do feel for a fellow professional, although all he's done is attack me verbally, but I really do feel for my client. She was put into a bad spot. She decided to, for whatever reason, because we can't read into why she did it, but for whatever reason, she felt that getting into this property was more important than dealing with Bob, plain and simple. And I was able to provide her the information that she needed and provide her the ability to work with the seller and get the deal done for her. And now she's living in the home that she decided to buy. There are so many things thrown at me that I really can't, you know, there's not much to say, because it turns into a he said, she said. But the bottom line is, she decided to do business with me, and now she's living in the home. I never offered her 2% kickback or anything like that. The fact that she's a buyer who doesn't remember the fact that we sat down and went over paperwork is nothing that's new to any of us here. And so I don't have any response to that other than she just misremembered. And she doesn't know the facts or doesn't remember the fact that we sat down and did go over things and did go over the prelim. And it is suggested just in passing, hey, you know, you always have the ability to verify this information. And so, you know, as far as that's concerned, you know, I felt like I represented the facts as presented to me and as best as to my ability. And so with that, like they say, a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. And so I'll pass it to my attorney if he has anything, and let him add to it for me.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Bob, do you have any questions for the respondent?
I do have a few. Thank you.
Cool. Go ahead.
Larry, how did you learn that your seller, who you have a fiduciary duty to, was desperate, had financial hardships, and that they were desperate to sell their home? How did you learn that, and did they give you permission to share that with potential buyers?
Well, I don't know if desperate is the right word, but I had an idea of their situation just based on the conversations that I had with them.
So they said to you, we will accept a $50,000 discount or $50,000 below market offer? They told you that?
Well, as you know, with dealing with your sellers in the past, a lot of times your sellers feel like they're negotiating against us as agents, so they keep that information close to the vest. They did not specifically say that they would take $50,000 and name that particular number.
Well, my witness said that's what you told her. You gave her that figure of $450,000. They had to share that with you. And did they give you permission to share that with her? That's my question.
Your witness provided you incorrect information.
So the seller did not give you permission to share with potential buyers of their financial situation, and that they would take $50,000 less than the market value for their property?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you said that the witness said that I told her that they would take that $50,000 less, and no, I did not tell your witness that.
Larry, did you receive any other offers on the property?
I had no other current written offers at that time.
Did you receive any other offers at any time on this property?
Prior to that, we did receive verbal offers, but nothing in writing.
Okay. I do have some more questions.
Does that qualify as an offer since it wasn't in writing?
I'm the one asking questions.
Like your exclusive representation?
Okay, gentlemen,
My apologies.
thank you.
This is Debbie Kelly. Larry, did the seller indicate that he did not want the property shown on December 31st?
This is Larry. Initially, he did.
Initially.
Yes.
And when did he retract that?
After I got a call, a voicemail from Betsy. I got it, she called in 6 o'clock, maybe on the 30th. I think it was the 30th, the date. And so the next day, before I called her back, I checked with the seller.
I see. Okay, was the seller still living at the property?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Paul, that's all I have.
Thank you. Juan, you have questions?
This one as follows. Larry, in your daily activities, when you're taking a listing and seller is giving you information about the property, do you ever verify the information that they give you?
Yes.
Was there a reason why you didn't verify that the acreage was not 2.5 and you actually advertised as 2.5?
Well, the seller had owned the property for a number of years, and, you know, in hindsight, yes, do I wish I would have personally had that measured? Well, yeah, in hindsight, absolutely. But there was no other reason other than the seller was pretty sure, and all the other information that they had given me was true and correct, and so there was no reason for me to not believe them.
This is Paula Page, the chair. A couple questions for you, Larry.
Yes.
Had anyone mentioned the incorrect acreage or brought it to your attention prior to your dealings with the buyer, our witness here today, Betsy?
No.
Nobody whatsoever, either professionally in the business or any other third party,
No.
governmental agency or anything?
No.
Okay. Did you offer Betsy, for clarity for the panel now, did you ever offer a 2% commission upon the closing?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you pay anything to Betsy?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you tell Betsy that you would offer a referral fee to the complainant, to Bob, at any time?
No, that I don't recall ever offering to pay a referral fee. Even in our conversation that we had on the phone afterwards, that was never a discussion with Bob
Okay.
or with Betsy.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever taken courses, or what's your background in professional standards or ethics?
Well, in continuing education over the years and local courses or courses with the board, I can't specifically name the courses that I have taken, but just in through licensing and over a 30-year time period, every 4 years for sure, and over the years classes through the board.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in the hearing, unless there's more evidentiary presentation that you'd like the panel to entertain, we'd like to move to closing statements. Does anybody have any further evidence you'd like us to hear?
No.
Okay, so at this point, the complainant, Bob, you can make a closing statement.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and giving me this opportunity. At the beginning of the hearing, I said that Larry Lynn was the most unethical person I've ever met, and I think I proved it here today. Larry just flatly got his hand caught in the cookie jar, and he was unfortunate to run across me, who filed this complaint. Larry was motivated by greed, 6%. It's amazing. 6% can blind a lot of people. So let me just summarize this. He violated Article 1 because he violated his fiduciary duty to his seller, as well as the buyer. He didn't go over the prelim. He knew that was a material fact. 2.5 acres was a material fact. Oh, I just sent it to her. Who knows? He didn't spend the time. In her mind, she did not know it was 2.5 acres, and that was important. He violated that duty. Article 2, avoided concealment of pertinent facts. 2.5 acres versus 1.5 acres. That was important. Cooperate with other brokers. You didn't cooperate with me in showing Green Hills. Article 11, competent service. He didn't go over the prelim. I'm going to repeat it. That's why I included Article 11. He didn't go over that. And Article 12, he advertised 1.5 acres versus 2.5 acres. I think it's pretty clear that Larry didn't do a very good job, and he violated all those, plus all those MLS issues that I pointed out in the complaint. So I just want to say that Larry got his hand caught in the cookie jar, and I hope you discipline him. And thank you again for your time.
In summation to the panel, I want to bring up that a good part of this hearing should be in a court of law. If there's a real dispute over acreage, That's something that perhaps the buyer should take up with the seller. Because my client did nothing wrong. The seller told him the size of the acreage. He put it in the NLS. The buyer understood she was buying the property as is. And she had a title report given to her, a preliminary title report prior to the close of escrow, which spelled out the size of the property. So if she had any issue with the size of the property, it was her own fault for not being aware, not reading it. Nothing that my client did. He just did what the seller told him. The 6% commission, there's nothing in writing to show that she was getting a rebate at 2%. Bob said that she told him that Larry had offered her that, but there was nothing in writing. That Larry's testimony was he didn't offer that. So as you all know, in real estate contracts, anything that is going to happen has to be in writing. And there was nothing there, and she testified that she received, the buyer testified that she received no reimbursement. And the closing statement indicated that there was no reimbursement. Price reduction. The allegation's been made that my client told her private information to the seller that they were desperate and needed to reduce the price. Well, the reality of it is the property had been on the market 1 year. 1 year is a long time. The property sold for 10% less than the asking price. That's not an unusual discount in typical real estate markets, especially when a property's been on the market for a year. 10% is a reasonable reduction. So the price reduction had no bearing on my client giving her claim that my client, or Bob's claim that my client gave inside information to her at the distress of the seller. There was no distress sale. It was just a 10% price reduction. And then the last one is standard of practice. Bob's claim that Larry stole his client. Well, I'm going to give you a brief summary of 16.13 and 16.14. And in 16.13, before providing subsidy services such as writing a purchase offer or presenting a CMA prospect, realtors shall ask prospects whether they are a party to any exclusive representation agreement. She testified she had no exclusive representation agreement with Bob. She'd been in the car all of an hour and a half with him. He never brought that up. And she even testified that she wasn't sure she would have signed one. She just didn't want to feel committed. This is a first-time purchase, and she was looking out for herself, not for Bob. And the last part, 16.14, realtors are free to enter into contractual relationships or to negotiate with sellers, buyers, or others who are not subject to an exclusive agreement but shall not knowingly obligate them to pay more than one commission except with their informed consent. Larry never asked her to pay more, never asked her to pay a fee to Bob. She never offered. He did nothing. He did nothing wrong. So he has not violated standards of practice. He has not violated the other allegations Bob's made. If there's any real issue, it would have to do with the size of the property. That was information given to Larry by the seller, and that's something that a court of law could take up, but it's not for a grievance committee to decide.
This is Larry. I have nothing further to add. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your evidence and your testimony regarding this matter. We'll now go into executive session and deliberate our decision. You'll be notified by the association of our decision. The hearing is officially adjourned. You're now excused, and the tape recorder will now be turned off.